before Arrow, before The Flash, before Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow. Hell, before the classic 1990s Flash series starring John Wesley Shipp, there were plans in place to produce a live-action superhero series starring both The Flash and Green Arrow. And today, I'm gonna tell you all about it. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster, and welcome to Legends of Fandom, where I discuss fanboy films and shows that almost happened. And with the return of the DCW shows this week, I can't think of a better time to talk about the live-action superhero show that almost preceded them. But before I talk about that, let me take you back to the 80s. A time where comic books were getting darker and Tim Burton's Batman was taking theaters by storm. And television networks took notice, as many of them expressed interest in picking up a superhero series, and Warner Brothers was happy to oblige, as they put out a call to any creators with ideas for superhero shows. And among the many to answer the call were the producers of the classic Flash series, Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo, as they proposed a series that coincidentally resembles the current state of the live-action DC shows. So much so that it is scary. The show was initially pitched to CBS, and Warner Brothers apparently gave Bilson and DeMeo carte blanche to use any DC characters in their pitch as long as they were characters that were not being considered for movies. Oh, so they were actually more organized about stuff like that back then. And thus, Bilson and DeMeo pitched Unlimited Powers, a superhero show so kick-ass, hardcore fanboys talk about it to this very day. The pilot episode would have opened with a massive action sequence involving Flash leading a team of DC heroes into battle. Okay, just in case you didn't hear me, this would have been the first scene in the first episode. My God, this would have been awesome! Unfortunately, details about this action-packed cold opening are very scarce. There is a rumor that Green Arrow would have died during this scene, but I could not find any confirmation of such. What we do know is that the sequence would have involved Russia in some way or another, and that the super battle would have caused a massive catastrophe that would have been blamed on the superheroes. Now, it's actually unclear whether or not the superheroes actually deserve the blame, but what we do know is this. The fallout from the event would have caused the United States and Russia to come to an agreement and pass the Limited Powers Act, which made being superheroes illegal. This of course leads to a few heroes being arrested and the rest to retire, except for the Flash, feeling guilty for causing the end of superheroes as we know them, and possibly the death of his comrade. The Flash allows himself to be placed in suspended animation, where he remains for 20 years. When he emerges from cryogenic sleep, the Flash finds himself in a future that is ruled by supervillains. Only instead of terrorizing the populace with their gaudy costumes, gimmicks, and superpowers, they maintain control as all-powerful rich businessmen. Too powerful for the law to touch. Shocked by the state of the world, the Flash decides it's time for superheroes to come back out of retirement. So he steals one of his old costumes that was on display at a museum and gets to work assembling a new team of heroes to take down the supervillain businessmen. The team would have consisted of mostly obscure DC characters, like Dr. Occult, a Fantastic Four Thing ripoff called Block, and the most intriguing character in this unmade series, which would have been Green Arrow's daughter. Yes, the bulk of the series would have consisted of Flash taking a young Dinah Queen under his wing and mentor her as she attempts to continue her father's legacy as the new Green Arrow. And before I get a million rude comments, yes, I am aware that this is a picture of Artemis from Young Justice, not Green Arrow's biological daughter. It's just intended to be a visual aid. Now please, relax and try to continue enjoying the video. It is because of the inclusion of Green Arrow's daughter that a lot of fans believe that the rumor about Green Arrow dying in the first episode might be true, as it would make sense that the Flash would be open to the opportunity to take care of his fallen friend's daughter, and it would also make sense that Dinah would fall in with the Flash and see him as the father she never had, as not only is he a superhero like her deceased father, but the Flash was also a hero from the bygone era when her father was in his prime. Now, once again, none of this is for sure. All I'm saying is that it would have made sense. Now, here's another interesting topic. If they would have produced this show, who would have been the most likely candidates to play the main characters. The casting choice with the highest probability to play the Flash, aka Barry Allen, would have definitely been Richard Borghi, who was Belson and DeMeo's top choice to play the Flash in the show they ended up producing later. But unfortunately, by the time they got to work on that series, Borghi was unavailable. So they went with their second choice, John Wesley Shipp, which was still fortunate, as Shipp did an excellent job. But the question still remains, who would have played the supporting characters? Well, the only way to answer that's with a little segment I like to call... Okay, before we start casting these characters, one small stipulation. I'm only choosing actors that were active on American television in the early 90s. For example, Block, where we would need a tall actor with a really cool voice, and the perfect choice would have been Brad Garrett.
7-foot Jew can't play ball with a 3-inch penis. I deal with my life. I understand.
For Dr. Occult, we would need an experienced character actor with a knack for doing procedurals. And at the time, the best in the business was Jimmy Smits.
It wasn't me, that was your imagination reaching out to me. So, here I am.
In the flesh, so to speak.
However, the trickiest character to cast would have been the young female Green Arrow, as young talented actors are extremely hard to find, especially ones that can commit to a TV schedule. For this reason, I think that the only choice back in the early 90s would have been Claire Danes. One of the absolute best young actors of the era, I am sure that her stint as the descendant of the Emerald Archer would have given modern young actresses like Chloe Grace Moretz and Millie Bobby Brown a run for their money. So, if this show was so awesome, why wasn't it made? The answer is shockingly simple. It just would have been too expensive to produce. While big multi-hero extravaganzas might be a common occurrence on modern television, in the early 90s, this was completely unheard of. And while the network, the studio, and all parties involved loved Bilson and DeMeo's pitch, it was completely out of scope for the landscape of television at the time. Nowadays, every network has several multi-million-dollar primetime series. Back in the 90s, producing unlimited powers would have required a budget that would have rivaled your average studio film. But like I said, all parties involved loved Bilson and DeMeo's pitch. The general consensus was that they needed to scale it down. Which they did, and then they went on to pitch what would go on to become the 90s Flash series, which ironically turned out to be too costly and was cancelled after one season, due to misscheduling, low ratings, and of course, cost. But that show was still a whole lot of fun, so if you get the chance, check it out. But the question still remains, would unlimited powers have been something that I would have liked to have seen? Yes and no. I'll explain. While I fully agree that the idea for unlimited powers is great, I still think that such an adaptation shouldn't exist before a proper Flash or Green Arrow adaptation. For unlimited powers to truly work as a show, mainstream audiences have to be aware of who these characters are and what the world that they inhabit is like for a plot like the one in this show to truly have the impact that it needs. So yeah, I'm really happy that they did the Flash series first, and that went on to be rebooted on the same network that airs a series built around Green Arrow. So because of this, I feel that now would be a great time for a show, or a season, or maybe just one episode of the Flash series that uses the unlimited powers plot, as everything that Bilson and DeMeo's premise needs for it to work has been skillfully established by the creators of the modern Flash series. For now, I'm just happy that a Flash series exists. So that was the story of Unlimited Powers, the unmade series. Do you know of any other unmade oddities? Feel free to let me know at erod@inbox.com so I can determine whether they are worthy of being a legend of fandom. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Erod, and I'm the Blockbuster Buster.